Well guys, LEGO have done it again. They have given us another train for the summer releases. This was leaked just recently, set 60509, the Harbour freight train. And wow, this is a pretty good looking loco. So today I'm just going to go over my thoughts on what we've seen in these leaked images, about things that I would probably do with it, and what I think about the general set. So let's see, straight off the bat, looking at the locomotive, immediately makes me think of a Sentinel style shunter. And I'm sure that everyone across the world is thinking, oh, it looks like this train that I recognise or that train that I recognise. It's a really uh, classic kind of look for a diesel shunter in a yard. So the train itself, I think, looks really good. I really like the brick built arrows that we've got going on the side rather than just slapping a sticker on there. It's nice to get some interesting part usage going on, and the kind of chevron look I think is quite industrial looking as well, so that's really nice. um, and the only thing that I thought was a bit weird is that the loco is pretty much 4 studs wide, apart from the point where the cab is, where we're a bit wider. uh, So I think it would have been nice to have had like a footplate kind of running around, where you could have had minifigures stood on the outside of the loco, as well as them going inside. And this is an unpowered set, although it can be powered up if you have the hub and motor sets to go with it. But it leads me to think that because of that 4 stud wide design for most of the locomotive, the only place you're going to put the hub is right in the middle here, which means you're going to have no room for your minifigure to be driving the loco. So that's a little bit of a shame, but you could just take the legs off the minifig and stick him on top of the hub, most likely, so you can at least see someone inside the cab. But I mean, overall, the loco looks great. It does look to have axles put in this image, so I don't think that necessarily means that that it's using a hub in these pictures. I think what's more likely going on here is you need these pieces in order to add to a Lego motor, because when you buy the motor, you only get the motor itself. So these are probably the pieces to complement that motor, and I imagine that you literally pull out a sub-assembly, swap those over onto the motor, and then just swap it back in. So kind of like a bit of a hot swap for that motor setup, which would be really nice and easy for getting it converted. It will also be quite interesting to see if the hub does need to sit right above the motor like this. And it's a problem I've had with some of my locos, is the little uh, pin that sticks up from the motor that attaches for the bogied locomotives, how much of that is in the way, and whether they've made any kind of amendments inside the cab to encompass that so it doesn't get in the way of fouling the hub when it's in there. Um, but yeah, and that's going to be really interesting to see. And I'm assuming that this cab will come off quite simply for putting the minifig in and also for accessing the hub. Maybe just this roof piece comes off. We'll have to wait and see. I did think as well, these black windows, I don't think I've seen these before. Perhaps they already produced them, but that could give some good options as well for other locomotives you'd like to build, having that colour too. So really, just an excellent little locomotive, great little shunter, and I'll probably pull quite a lot of wagons on its own, I imagine. And what's nice with this set as well, it looks like we've got 2 sets of carriages behind, or wagons behind, carrying pretty much the Lego standard setup for containers. I think that the previous sets that we've had have all used these same, um, what are these, 10 long, 8 long? I think they're about 10 long containers. So that's going to be, I would imagine, compatible with other containers that they've made in the past as well. So it's nice because you'll be able to mix and match what you've got on the back up there, which would be really good. Hey guys, Future Simon here. So as I was recording this video and getting some images to show you guys, I've just found that both the Harbour locomotive and the vintage steam train are both now available for pre-order on the LEGO website. So I'm going to go and order some of those. We've got some great little builds on there as well, which we'll touch on later as well. And we've got this single piece of track, again with the, what would you call that, with a re-railer, the entryway to the track. So it's again designed as a push-along model. And I think that Lego's hitting on a pretty good idea here, because although this set is reasonably expensive for what it is, I think it's something like, I think it was £90 it was being thrown around as it would cost. It's a little bit pricey for what you've got there, but I mean, you do have two vehicles with it and the train itself, but not having that motor in there, it does keep the price a lot lower, because I think that the motorized stuff now is retailing about 200-ish, depending on what set it is. So by keeping that price lower, by not including the motors, I think it lets kids get the trains more easily, and they can at least be pushing trains around and playing with them, and that's going to help bring people in to the train sub theme in the Lego City theme. So I think that that is a good thing. I don't think it's necessarily bad that they're not doing it with a powered up motor included as part of the set. However, I do think that Lego need to start producing a powered up set so you can buy the hub and the motor and the controller all together as one product in a box. So you can literally go, well, I can get that train and then I'll buy my powered up box. And I think Power Functions had something very similar at one point, where you could buy a set of Power Functions motors and controllers. We need that, I think, if this is going to be the new normal for Lego trains. So let's move on. The other things that we get in this set, so we have the loaders. We've got a truck to carry these containers, and we've got the loader that's picking it up, putting those on. This is a bit which I find really weird. It's great seeing that we've got this very simple kind of loader in place, but it's got a hook and something on top of the container, but not all of the containers have the eyelets for the hook, which I thought was a bit weird. So that's going to mean you're going to have to keep taking that eyelet off of the hook, off of the container, and putting it onto the container that you want to pick up. So if that's the case, why not just make it so that the lifter itself just had a plate on it that you could lift with? It's really bizarre, kind of looking at it. I'm not quite sure why they went down that route. But you know, as it goes, it's perfectly reasonable. It's going to be able to do the job, and the little truck I think looks really nice as well. I can imagine that the truck would actually be quite fun to modify as well, perhaps to extend the length of that, give it an extra set of wheels at the back, have it carry two sets of containers maybe, or maybe even turn this into an articulated lorry cab instead. Loads I think that we'd be able to play around with on that. So really good items included in the set, because I think ultimately this has got a lot of playability to it again. Being able to load and unload the wagons up, take them off somewhere, bring back. I'm imagining it very simple to change out for custom builds to go into those as well, so that you can be moving things around your imaginary world. And that's going to be fantastic for both kids and grown-ups, I think, because I certainly will be doing that myself when we do big shows. It'd be great. So let's move on and take a look through some of the other images that we've got. So this is the back of the box, and we can see some of the examples of what's going on. So we've got the loader there. We can extend out the boom, lift it up to be able to take things on and off of the truck. And interesting, we can see the containers here are all stacked as well. Although looking at the containers themselves, it doesn't look like you'd be able to stack them and for them to come away simply and cleanly. It looks like those have been pushed together on the studs, I'm imagining. So it's not something like the kind of custom setups that you see where people make it so that you can take containers off of each other really simply using the little nipple pieces. But it'd probably be quite simple to add some pieces on there, and maybe some plates to make it so that they would stack more in a more friendly manner, so that they could be lifted apart. We've also can see one of the mini builds on there is that small classic tractor which I think would be just a fun little build to have included. The last time I think we got a build going into a container was that the green cargo train, and we had the Arctic Explorers snowmobile. I think this is a lot better than having a snowmobile, having a vehicle that you can just kind of drive around on anything and doesn't require the snow. So that's really fun to see. And we can also see the other sub build in there, which is the engines which are being transported. And I think they look really cool. They could be engines for going into agricultural vehicles or going into some sort of marine or something. They just look really industrial in there. So I really like those. And it's worth pointing out that the two containers which are closed and the one here which is a cold container. I think on the previous image you can actually see that it's got a brick built bits and pieces to show the ventilation and cooling side of things on that container. So that's really quite fun as well. Nice little detailed bits to see, because you could have just had a plain wall there, but it's nice to see that they went to the effort to put a bit of detail onto it. And also we can see the back of the loco more clearly here as well. Very much the same as the front. It's not, there's not huge amounts going on for difference. It would be really cool to get lights put into this, I think. So you could have the rear lit up with some red lights and yellows on the front, or even if you could do it a bit custom and start splicing wires and put some directional lighting into it, it would be really cool as well. So yeah, I really like the look of this one. It's going to be quite good. I'm surprised that the doors they've actually made in that nice turquoise colour as well. I thought that those might end up just being more grey doors slapped on, and I can't decide in my head whether the grey doors would look better to give some contrast to the rest of the bodywork there, or whether it's good that they are kept in the same colour. I don't know, what do you guys think? Because obviously a lot of diesel locomotives would have their doors in the same colour as the rest of the loco. So I don't know, maybe it's just a preference thing. Again here though, you can see, I think, where it'd be really good to extend out to have more of a foot plate going on. I mean, we have these steps going up. I can't really see, like, where are the steps going to? It seems like a bit confusing as to what these steps would do. I would assume that these handles would be intended that minifigs would be able to climb up and hold on as shunters would when they're going about the yard, so they can hop on and off the locomotives to catch a ride rather than walking from one end of the shunt yard to the other, which with big yards can be very tiresome. So I don't know, it's hard to see from here. Really going to have to get the model in hand to get a better idea of what's going on there. Okay, and then up in the top of this on the back box, we can see the powered up suggestion, and I've just noticed we actually have the cable slinking out and into one of the boxes. So that for me is a massive no thank you. Yeah, I don't like the hub being put somewhere separate if it's not part of the locomotive. I think that I'd want to get that hub inside of here somehow, and whether that means I need to make the loco itself a little bit wider to accommodate it, or turf out a bit of whatever's behind these arrow pieces, I think that hub needs to be inside that locomotive, because I want that one to disconnect from a train and go and run around the other side and grab some other coaches and different wagons and whatnot. So yeah, that's a bit of a shame. Perhaps throwing a circuit cube in there instead would be a better option. So you get a pretty reasonable sort of speed going for a shunt locomotive, but the bonus of small electronics, so that you're not going to end up with having to have a big bulky hub in place. All of my hubs I modify anyway so that they are smaller and use a 9-volt battery. I think I'll have a much easier time getting those in than a whole city hub, but it'll be interesting to see what we need to do to achieve that fully separated locomotive. All right, and let's go look at the next image. So here is the set actually out as the whole playset. So it is pretty much a replication of what's going on in the image on the box, to be fair. We've got a slightly different angle. We can see quite more clearly the you can see some Technic holes in there where those wheels are. So I think that is probably just one or two Technic bars straight across. I think that whole thing's just going to drop out as one unit, and then we'll just drop our motor in quite simply. Now we see it from this angle, there is actually a bit more of a foot plate around it than I first thought. I think it's just not over the top of the wheels. So maybe if we could get a foot plate going across here as well, I think that would improve the look, because no one's getting into those cab areas without having a foot plate bit there. So a little bit of improvement that I think could be made, but that's nice to have something to improve. If you get something perfect, then what are you going to do to play modifying it with, eh? It's part of the fun. And we've got a couple of minifigs out there, which are the guys who are, I think, the actual shunt staff themselves. High-vis vests, nice simple minifigs. He looks like he's not going to take no nonsense from nobody. Very few pieces of track. Was that 4 straight pieces of track? So we're looking at about 2 base plates long. I mean, the whole consist barely fits on those pieces of track. So I think Lego's been a little bit stingy. They could have given an extra piece of track there for the whole thing to fit more properly onto, I guess, what is essentially the station part for this set. That's going to, I think, would have made it easier for kids who are playing with it, that they can actually get the train fully on and not have it end up rolling off down this little ramp piece. So we'll have to see again once we have it in hand what that is actually going to be like. So there's another view of close-up of those little mini builds. Again, they look pretty good. I think they're going to be pretty fun to have. And here's our figures. So we've got the 2 shunt staff with their high-vis wear on. So my assumption is that those are the guys who are working the yard. We've got the female person here with the overalls on. I'm assuming that she's supposed to be maybe the loader. I'm not sure. Oh no, she's in the truck. So she's the truck driver. And then we have the girl here with the flannel shirt on, and she is got a nice helmet on. She's the one that's driving the actual loader itself. So, you know, good number of figures. I don't think there's anything hugely special about them. I do like the high-vis vests for a modern look. It seems pretty cool. And then lastly, we've got a couple of the lifestyle images. Again, I don't think there's huge amounts more really to say about it here. There's definitely not huge amounts more to see. Interesting, there is a second eyelet on top of one of the containers over here, so maybe they've included more than that one. It'd be nice if they've included 4. I mean, obviously if you want to stack them, you're going to have to take them off anyway. It's a shame that Lego doesn't do anything anymore with magnets, because I think just having like a magnet plate on there would have been so much better, rather than having to faff around with hooking things on. But there you go. Okay, and then our last image is supposed to be somebody building the set, but honestly it looks more like they've just dropped the set and they're putting it back together. There's a little bit of chaos going on here. We've got a better top-down view of that loco, and I think we can see there it's going to be very tight to get a hub into that area, which is probably why they're putting it into that back container instead. And again, I think that's a shame. I'd want to keep that separate for the reasons that I've stated already. So we'll have to see what that's like when it actually arrives, and see what we can do to modify and play about with it. What I haven't been able to determine from looking at the sets though is whether or not, and the same is true for the steam engine as well, whether or not we're getting the awful plastic click-in wheels, or whether we'll get the nice metal axled wheels as part of this set. I've got my fingers crossed that we're going to get the metal axled wheels, and I'm basing that purely on speculation that on the pab at the moment online you can buy the wheel holders, the axles and the wheels. which kind of makes me feel that maybe they've manufactured a whole bunch more of those and have put some up on the pab as well as using in these sets. But I mean, that's complete speculation. I am crossing my fingers that that is the case, that they've looked at those horrible plastic based wheels and they've gone, yeah, we've made a huge mistake with these, they are rubbish. But we'll have to wait and see. Again, until we have the set in hand, it's just all going to be speculation. So what do you guys think about this one, the Harbour freight train? I mean, I don't think freight train really is quite accurate. It's more like a freight shunter, personally. What do you think? Do you recognise this loco as being something else from your own childhood or what you see around in your area? What does it remind you of? I mean, I think it's a Sentinel diesel when I look at it, and I think that's pretty cool. And also, do you think that price is going to be justified? It's quite a bit more than the steam engine, and I think the steam engine's got a lot more going on for it than what this one does. It'd be interesting to know what you guys think. But that's all I've got for you today. If you want to, then please remember you can subscribe to the channel and get more videos like this. And if you do have any comments for it, drop them below. I love interacting with you guys and discussing what is going to go on with this set. And apparently there's something called a hype button. And if you want to push a hype button, apparently that'll help the video. So do that if you want to as well. And until next time, I'll see you then. Bye.